to the second in my series of my masterclasses on the Find Your Inner Goddess method of healing for women, especially after sexual trauma. I'm so glad you're here. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Claudia Chapman, Women's Empowerment and Sexual Trauma Coach. And today we're entering the sacred waters of the Sacral Chakra, the energetic center of pleasure, creativity, sensuality, emotional flow and desire. This is the place within us that knows how to feel, how to receive, how to move with life rather than against it. For many women, this chakra holds deep memory of shame, of silencing, of being told our desire was dangerous, our bodies were wrong, or our pleasure was something to be controlled or hidden. The sacral chakra lives in the womb, the hips, the pelvis and the lower back. And it's where we hold what was never spoken, never expressed and never safely felt. It is also where our creative life force lives, Shakti, Kundalini energy that waits patiently to be welcomed home. In this masterclass, we will explore the light and the shadow of the sacral chakra, how shame and guilt become stored in the body, how disconnection can come from pleasure, disconnection from pleasure can be a trauma response, and how we gently and safely begin to restore ease, flow, grace and sensual aliveness. We'll be working with two powerful archetypes, the temptress, who teaches us about desire, magnetism and reclaiming what we want, and the creatrix, the sacred maker, the womb of possibility, the one who births life, art, ideas and new versions of self. So this is not about pushing, performing or forcing anything to happen. This is about listening, softening and allowing at your own pace. Everything shared today is an invitation, not a demand. So you are always in choice. You are always sovereign. If at any point you need to pause or ground or step away, that is honoured here too. Your body holds the wisdom. Your nervous system sets the pace. And may this be a remembering. A return to your body as a safe space, a reawakening of pleasure as sacred, a homecoming to your creative, sensual, powerful, feminine self. So take a breath, feel your feet, and let us begin. So I'm going to share my screen now. Go back. Okay, fabulous. All right, so I hope you can all see that, and also you, I hope, have done the first in the series. So if you haven't, then I'd invite you to go back to the Root Chakra Masterclass before you start the Sacral, because that's the first in the series. And I also encourage you to have your workbook, the Find Your Inner Goddess workbook that you have, and to turn to the note-taking space for the sacral chakra, so that you have the opportunity now to write down anything that occurs. There are some questions that I'll be asking you, and it'd be really useful for you to work at your own pace with this. But yes, and you can stop the recording at any time, but you have that in front of you. So let's begin. Excuse me. So this is the Sacral Chakra Masterclass. It's a trauma-informed journey into pleasure, creativity and flow. So you should have the cards as well. If you don't, then this is, you can purchase them from me and contact me if you would like them. But this is the second in the second card, the sacral chakra, of course, the temptress and the creatrix. So these are the archetypes that we will be looking at as far as the goddesses are concerned. There are many layers and deep, deep work in the sacral chakra. This really is beginning the really deep rooted feminine work really does appear in this chakra. So the Sanskrit word is Svadhisthana. The goddess archetype, as I say, is the temptress and the creatrix. So there are two archetypes in this chakra. The element is water. The meaning I feel, the colour is orange. So yoga asana or yoga physical poses. Some ideas are the goddess pose, pigeon and pelvic tilts. There are of course many more, but these are some ideas for you to use during your practice or separate in this throughout this journey. You can use these cards and whenever you wish. So the breath, sighing out of the mouth, taking a deep breath in and sighing it out. I always encourage that all sessions, either one-to-one or whatever work you're doing, to before you start anything, and that is to take 3 breaths. So maybe we can do that together now. So you can get your favorite oil, whatever oil you wish, but I do encourage, in this case, geranium. So if you have some geranium, then place it in your hands, taking a deep breath in, filling up your diaphragm and sighing it out. So we're just getting our nervous systems ready to absorb this information, to feel this information viscerally in our bodies. So taking another deep breath in, filling up the diaphragm just below your lungs, and then sighing it out. I always encourage you to open your palms so that you're receiving life force energy as well. And one more time, taking a deep breath in, filling up your diaphragm, sighing it out. So the music tends to vary, but sort of belly dancing music is a really good idea for moving through the chakra dance. That is also accompanying these cards that I encourage you to go take a look at in my YouTube channel. Really is the physical manifestation of the work, the Find Your Inner Goddess work. And I really do encourage you to do the physical manifestation of the work, because the work is very visceral. The work is very much about embodiment. And we'll come back to that later. So the emotions are sexual, sensual, and creative. So sexuality, sensuality, they're kind of one and the same, but they're also different, because obviously sex is sex and sensuality is the sexuality without the sexual content, if you were. Oils, geranium. Crystals, citrine or amber. Vibration is VAM. So we have vibrations as well for each chakra, VAM. So again, you can go and look on Spotify, and there's various playlists with VAM in. There's one from Deepak Chopra that I can point you to that has all the different vibrations in. I think I mentioned it in the first video, but I'm mentioning it again. So food, oranges, sweet potatoes. So following different foods can also be a part of this, and colours, so that you have a ritual, so that you use these cards as well. If you have them as a ritual, so there's a different card for each day, and this would be a Tuesday, and it would be the sacral chakra, and I encourage you to do all these different things if you can in some part of that day. So oranges and sweet potato, to encourage you to eat things that line up with the chakra. So in this case, oranges and potato. Dance and action, making the infinity sign with your own hips, flow like a river with ease and grace. So moving your hips, again, you can go to the chakra dance and have a look at how we do that, and some of you already know how we do that, but also there is attached to this masterclass a way for you to refer back to the Awaken Your Inner Goddess videos as well, particularly the one on the sacral chakra. So the mantra, I am deeply connected to my womb. I am divinely creative. I allow my sexuality to drive my creative powers. These are just examples of mantras that you can do on a Tuesday or daily practice, or while we are doing this tonight, today, whenever you're watching this, you can use these mantras. So this is just an example of all the different elements that are in the sacral chakra and in the Find Your Inner Goddess journey. So this is a trauma-informed container. So you are always in choice. So it's always good to remember these things before we go any further. You are always in choice. Listen to your body and move at your own pace. So you can stop this video, you can come back to it, especially if you kind of having deep contemplation around a certain question and you need more time. Just pause the video, okay? Just pause the masterclass and come back to it. It should be done with ease and grace, right? This is all about ease and grace in the sacral chakra. Rest, pause, or opt out at any time, as I say. There's no right way to feel, move, or experience. So you might want to stop the video, you might want to move your hips, you might want to see what it feels like viscerally. That might be really important to you. And I would really encourage it actually, especially before, at least, before you actually get involved. So if you haven't done so already, you can pause it now, have a shake out, move your hips, put on your favourite piece of music. So your body holds wisdom and deserves gentleness. So the sacral body, the womb as a place of creation, memory and intuition. Your hips and your pelvis store emotion and lived experience. The lower back reflects support and safety. So this is a picture of a cave. I often like to point to or envision for you when I'm giving healing or a meditation, that we can envision a cave exactly like this, on a beach, in the ocean, at sunset, no one else around, and just imagining ourselves as our womb as a cave. And when the tides come in, the tide is washing away the lining of the womb, it's washing away all that doesn't serve you or that you no longer need, and cleansing you. Also, when you think about the womb, and you think about the fact that the womb is very important for our cycles, especially women who bleed, and women who bleed who are still fertile. Each month your womb sheds, and so this idea that the womb is washed away by water is very poignant for this chakra. The water element is really, really about the sacral chakra. It's the element of water, so that washing away of anything that doesn't serve you in the cave. So the sacral chakra inquiry, take a body scan. So I often say to you, or say to my clients, to take a body scan. So we work somatically, as one part of the work I do, we do work somatically. So we listen to the body. What is my body telling me? So what sensations do I notice in my womb, my hips, or my lower back right now? Does anything feel open, neutral, tight, numb, or alive? What feels safe to notice without needing to change it? And what would softness look like here? So you might want to pause this, you might want to write these things down and answer them in your book. So this is the starting point for you. So pleasure and desire. What does pleasure mean to me today? Not what it should be. Okay, we often think about what should be rather than what we're feeling in this moment, or what I feel like, what we think. What we think should be is often what other people have imparted that we should feel. Like we are told by society that pleasure should be X, Y, or Z, and actually pleasure means something completely different to you. Some of us are on sort of the starting points of reconnecting with our bodies after sexual trauma. We're reconnecting with our womb space, we're reconnecting, remembering and our bodies after disassociation or disconnection. So it's not one size fits all. Remember, I've said this before in the first masterclass, pleasure, everything is different to other people, everybody. So there's no wrong or right answers. It's like, what is it to you? Where do I allow pleasure? Where do I restrict it? So that could be in any area of your life. Where do you allow pleasure into your life, and where do you restrict it? That's really interesting, because we think of pleasure maybe as sex, or we might think of pleasure as food. We might think of pleasure as alcohol or drugs. We might feel pleasure as dancing. We might feel pleasure as just walking the dog. Pleasure is different for everyone. So think about where you where you gain pleasure, and where you restrict yourself. So what feels nourishing rather than overwhelming? So what things give you pleasure and feel nourishing to you rather than overwhelming? Do you find that if you're over pleasure, so the sacral chakra can be overstimulated, so it might be that you're overstimulated by sex, or you may be under, right? So what's nourishing and what's overwhelming? Maybe, you're spending too long being creative and you can't focus on anything else in your life. So it's about balance. Am I allowed to want what I want? Am I allowed to want what I want? So you can feel this viscerally, you can write it down. I would say just feel into this viscerally, feel into the body, into the soma. What do you feel in your body when I ask you that question? Am I allowed to want what I want? And there are so many reasons why you may feel that you're not allowed to want what you want. We have been made to be restricted, feel restricted in the feminine. Our roles as mothers, our roles as women, as wives, as daughters, we are often repressed around our pleasure and desire for fear of, repression by the masculine. Women aren't allowed to be over-sexualized, aren't allowed to have more than one partner, and it's okay for men, but it's not okay for women. There are so much restriction placed on us as women. And for those of us who've had sexual trauma, we can really give ourselves a hard time around being allowing around sexuality. We'll come back as well to that. So the goddess archetypes, the temptress, she reconnects us to desire without obligation. So I've placed two archetypes here because I think creativity and sensuality. So the temptress is the sensuality and the sexuality, and the temptress is always, as it says, it's the temptress. It's always seen as the dark feminine, especially by the masculine or by patriarchy, and obviously by the feminine who are affected by patriarchy as well. So she reconnects us to desire without obligation. That's interesting, isn't it? Because are we allowed to be sensual? Are we allowed to have desire without being obligated to have children or be in a relationship? Or is it frivolous? Is it something that is, not something that we can, because it's not practical, it's not masculine, it's not a masculine doing energy, it's a being energy, right? It's not a logical mind, it's not, facts and figures and, doing things for others mostly. So she invites safe pleasure and embodied presence. She invites safe pleasure and embodied presence. So when we feel safe, as we looked at in the root chakra, being safe in our bodies allows us then to welcome pleasure. And when we welcome pleasure, we feel embodied, we feel into our body, we feel present in our embodiment, right? This is where we start to wake up the energy in our sacral chakra to feel alive. And it's this chakra that gives us that aliveness, that ability to send the energy through the body to feel and wakens up all of the body through the Shakti and Kundalini, which we'll go on to in a moment. So reclaiming your sexuality from shame. So this is where shame lives. This shame is insidious. It lives in the body. It's kind of, I am shame and guilt. I also put guilt here because it's the sort of the baby sister of shame, if you like. And shame is insidious. Shame is what we feel we are. It becomes like a noun. It's a thing. And then the guilt is kind of, like I say, the baby sister. The sort of, we can get rid of guilt a lot easier than we can get rid of shame. And shame physically, as I'm feeling it, it goes throughout our whole bodies, and it's what holds us back from so many things. So the shadows of the sacral chakra, sexual trauma, as I've said, disassociation. So disassociating in sexual trauma or from sexual trauma, numbness. We may feel numb in the sacral chakra. We may feel like we're controlling everything. We might be rigidity, perfectionism, religious or cultural shame around desire and being over-sexualized as the feminine. Yeah, this is a big reason that we hold back with the temptress. And let's just inquire a little bit more about the temptress. So here's a picture of Lilith, the goddess or the archetype, who was, the story is that she was the first woman. She was the first woman. She was in the Garden of Eden with Adam, and she refused to succumb to Adam's needs, his sexual needs, and therefore it is said that God banished her from the Garden of Eden and replaced her with Eve, because Eve was more I've forgotten the word now, but Eve was able to give Adam what was required. And the temptress Lilith came back as the snake, and she was the snake in the Garden of Eden and then became the temptress, offering the forbidden fruit. So what desires have I learned to suppress or apologize for? So this is how this shows up. The archetype comes up. What desires have I learned to suppress or apologize for? Yeah, apology over having sexual or sensual needs and requirements. Yeah, where do I seek approval instead of honoring my truth? Where do I seek approval instead of honoring my truth? What does embodied desire feel like when it is safe? What does embodied desire feel like when it is safe? How can I reclaim pleasure without self-abandonment? How can I reclaim pleasure without self-abandonment? So, if you listen to these questions, if you want to do some answers to these questions in your notebooks, and then we can unpack them together on a one-to-one or in our group. Some of us if you're in the Find Your Inner Goddess program, then you have the ability to come along and in our circle, and we can unpack this as a group if you would like to share. So what else have I got to say about the archetype of the temptress? Yeah, let's see what comes up in your questions, and then we can always come back to it a bit later. So the other goddess archetype that lives here is the creatrix. She births ideas, visions, and new ways of being. So it's a lovely picture of Sarasvati. She's a great embodiment of sensuality and creativity in the sacral chakra. She sits by the water and the swans and plays beautiful instruments. So she births ideas, visions, and new ways of being. She creates from the womb without pressure. She honours the cycles and she rests. So the cycles of the moon. So always being aware of the blood cycles, of your bleed. Really important in the work we do is honouring your cycles, honouring the time when you bleed, honouring the time that leads up to your bleed or during your bleed, where you are allowing yourself to just go into whatever dark shadow you need, the rest that you need. This is a more complex conversation, but yeah, honouring the cycles of the moon. Shadow may show up as overgiving or burnout. So you may find that that is what you're doing if you are not in your flow, not in the flow of your creatrix or your temptress. So the creatrix archetype inquiry. What is trying to be created through me right now? What is trying to be created through me right now? So here we have Frida Kahlo, the great artist and beautiful feminist icon of the century. She is just a real inspiration with her artwork and her story. Her story is quite tragic, but also very inspiring. I encourage you to go and find out more about Frida Kahlo. So maybe not typically a goddess, in what you might call a goddess, but a goddess is who we feel inside and who we admire in the outside world, in history as well. So am I forcing creation, or am I allowing myself to emerge? Right? Am I forcing creation, or am I allowing myself to emerge slowly? So, you know, when we force creativity, when we force ourselves to be creative, it doesn't usually come. So when we're in flow, when we're in ease and grace, and the flowy, watery energy of the sacral chakra, then creation, things come and they just emerge as if from nowhere sometimes. It's like, you know, the universe, the creator, has that energy alongside it and helps us and assists us. What happens when I slow down my creative process? What happens when I slow down my creative process? And for some of you on my program, I know are artists, and we're all artists in some way, but if you are a painter, it'd be interesting to see what you come up with. So where do I need rest before birthing something new? Where do I need rest before birthing something new? So Shakti and Kundalini energy. So there's a lot here, as I said, in the sacral chakra. And the Shakti and Kundalini energy I will describe now. So Shakti is the feminine life force within our bodies, in all our bodies. It's that energy of the feminine life force, like Gaia, like Mother Earth coming up through us. It's that emerging energy. So it's like Gaia, but she's coming up and she's embodying us through Shakti. Kundalini awakens gently when safety is present. It's the metaphorical coiled snake that lives dormant in the body until it's awakened. So in Kundalini energy, in Kundalini yoga and other Vedic principles, it's the metaphorical snake, right, that lives around our spine, and when it's released, so are our chakras, and then we have the energy to heal. So I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, and it's all about releasing that coiled energy from around the body, around the spine, especially in the vagus nerve, actually in the top nervous system. So this is not a forced process, it unfolds organically. So again, everything is all about ease and grace and flow, and it takes time and energy. And if you participate in the chakra dance journey, you will know that this energy is what we encourage to move up and through the body. One of many things that we focus on, but the Kundalini energy, the Kundalini rising is really important. But it's also really important to ground that energy at the end of the rising of the Kundalini energy. Otherwise we can get too high and we can, you know, kind of be in the Vata, be in the, in Ayurvedic terms, the Vata is the energy of the air, and we can be too up here, and we need to come down and be in the real world. And sometimes, unfortunately, but it's the truth, we do have to function. So this is not a forced process, it unfolds organically. We need grounding and regulation are essential, which is what I've said. So Shakti energy and energy awareness, inquiry. So where do I feel energy and where do I feel absence? So again, taking lots of questions in this chakra. Where do I feel energy and where do I feel absence? Again, you can do this writing it down, or you can just do it as a visceral inquiry. And you can stop the button, you can stop the video, stop the video whenever you need to just pause. So I might be going quite fast, so if you want to slow things right down, then just pause after each question. Where do I feel energy and where do I feel absence? What helps my system feel regulated and present? Regulated is calm. So we have the nervous system, we have the regulated nervous system generally. We have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. This is a very general explanation. It's much more complex. So in the sympathetic nervous system, we have often high cortisol. That's the sort of hormones that the endocrine system creates, that kind of sets us in this nervous anxiety. And then we have the parasympathetic system, which is like rest and digest. Yeah. So the parasympathetic system is rest and digest, and the sympathetic is fight, flight, and freeze. So we either sort of in fight, we want to fight, we want to run away, which is fight, flight, and freeze. So we either flight, run away, or freeze, and we just end up in a state of freeze when either a predator is coming towards us or something that we can't deal with. You know, think about those times maybe where you have felt either one of those, fight, flight, freeze. And there is fawn as well. That's when we kind of go into fawning, and this can happen a lot in sexual trauma actually. Sometimes women can feel that they are wrong in having gone through with a sexual act in a rape or molestation situation, but the truth is that they had to fawn, they had to succumb in order to stay alive. And in most cases, it's always okay, if I go ahead, if I go along with what's happening to me, then I won't die. And it's just a survival mechanism. So fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Or when you're regulated in the parasympathetic, that's when your nervous system is in that calm response. So how do you stay regulated and present? How, when you've got anxiety or overwhelm or so many things coming at you, do you stay present in your body? Do you do breath work? Do you dance? Do you find the chakra dance helps you with that? Do you use the breath work? So how does my body signal yes, no, or maybe? That's interesting. How does my body signal yes, no, or maybe? So just noticing and listening to your gut instinct, listening to your solar plexus in this particular case. That's really important to know where you are safe, where you are not safe. Your gut instinct, your solar plexus will tell you. And so what does safety feel like in my body? What does safety feel like? So safety comes up all the time. So safety starts with the root chakra, but it's throughout the process of the Find Your Inner Goddess process, throughout the process of healing. We as women constantly need to go back to, am I feel safe? Do I feel safe in this situation that I'm in? It's unfortunate but true. In some ways, women are definitely led to, when they step out of the house, to be always in that question, am I safe? Or in every moment, am I safe? Men do too, I have to say, men do too. And it's becoming more and more an issue for the masculine as well, especially here in London with young people. So what is shame? So shame is this, excuse me, shame is a feeling that something is wrong with me, a deep sense of unworthiness. Shame is a feeling that something is wrong with me, a deep sense of unworthiness. It is often learned from early life experiences, family patterns, culture, and societal expectations. Shame doesn't just live in the mind, it is stored in the body, especially in your womb and pelvis, tightness, restriction, or numbness, hips and lower back, tension, rigidity, or blocked movement. The body's tension is an adaptive response, protecting us from vulnerability or emotional exposure. So we tense up our bodies so that we don't feel vulnerable or emotionally exposed. But this restriction is the freeze response. This is pretty much the freeze response that is being described here. So healing begins with awareness, compassion, and creating a safe space to feel and release stored emotion. Healing begins with awareness, compassion, and creating a safe space to feel and release stored emotion. So shame and guilt, a trauma-informed inquiry. What messages did I receive about my body, sexuality, or desire? What messages did I receive about my body, sexuality, or desire? So when it says did, that's kind of relating to your younger years, maybe your maiden years. What was I taught to feel ashamed of? What was I taught to feel ashamed of? Does this belief belong to me, or was it inherited? So this is a really interesting one. We often have our own experiences in childhood that create feelings and situations later on in life, but also we can inherit these behaviours and patterns from our parents and our grandparents, and also those that have moved on to the next life. Sometimes it's inherited through the lineage, like the female line. Maybe your great grandmother was over sexualized, maybe. Maybe there's a history of prostitution in the family, and that can also have an impact on how you behave towards sex, and then the things that come up like guilt or shame around sexual behaviors. Or I've had clients before where there is 3 generations of sexual trauma, of molestation and rape, and that was known to my client when she was growing up. So, for instance, that would be very interesting how it plays out, and that she had the opportunity to cut the cords of that, of course. So what happens when I meet this with compassion instead of judgment? We often give ourselves such a hard time around shame, or we just give ourselves a hard time, which equals shame. We just feel so much shame instead of compassion. So what happens when I meet with shame with compassion instead of judgment? About ourselves and others. We can often judge others because we're judging ourselves, and we kind of have this sort of benchmark based on patriarchy. So it's worth just having that inquiry. So healing in shame and guilt. Safety dissolves shame. Curiosity replaces judgment. Gentle embodiment supports release. Pleasure and creativity restore dignity and choice. And movement and trauma release exercises like shaking and stimming and the goddess chakra dance. These are ideas for you, if you don't have them already, how you can move through shame and guilt. I will also give you some really good books to read on shame. I did a 4-day workshop with someone called Carolyn Cowan, and she's now brought a book out called Shame, The Path to Hell, which I highly recommend. reading. And obviously doing the work with me one-to-one, we will go deeper, much deeper into your own personal shame and where it's come from, and gently embodying it so that we can release it. And this is a big subject for me and my story, and you will be able to read that in the Shiro's Journey very soon. So ease, flow and grace, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for ease, flow and grace, like water. Healing happens through softening, not pushing. Water teaches adaptability and surrender. Grace comes from meeting yourself with compassion. Here's compassion again. Pleasure can be subtle, slow and deeply reparative. So when we're in ease, flow and grace, we can be in this watery element where we, doing the infinity sign, making the infinity sign here, this is the flow. This is the flow of life. When we really are in flow with life, that's when everything just is so beautiful. And we don't give ourselves a hard time, we don't beat ourselves up, we're not in judgment. We just listen innately to our wisdom, especially to our sexual, sensual womb wisdom. So sacral healing practices, as I said, the Sacral Goddess Chakra Dance journey with slow hip movements, womb healing with consent and choice. So there are lots of womb healings, very particular womb healings. I will be creating some meditation womb healings actually very soon, but there are plenty as well on the Insight Timer and Spotify as well. So creative expression without outcome. So being able to express yourself without thinking about how it's going to be at the end. So not the end result. So just allowing yourself to dance, allowing yourself to paint, allowing yourself to play the drum. I kind of got a drum last year and wasn't sure what it was going to be for me. But it's become something that I deeply use for healing, and it's actually got a very beautiful womb picture on it, and I found it very, very beautiful healing for me. And the gong, so sound healing and breath work, tracking sensations rather than emotions, somatic practices. So we do that in our one-to-ones, where I track your emotions, your sensations, and your emotions actually in the body. The sensations then are your descriptive emotions, but we start with what's happening, where can you feel tightness, where do you need to let go. So tracking that, being aware of somatic practices like shaking and stimming and TRE, and things that allow you to open up the sacral chakra. So there is a somatic practice, as I said before, some of you know this already, that there is activating the sacral chakra. Week 2 is on YouTube, so the link is here, and you can go ahead, and I would strongly advise you to go ahead and have a look at that practice, and or have a look at the Goddess Chakra Dance practice if you haven't already got that in your practice, because we always work through the whole body, but this is particularly activating the sacral chakra. And I really would recommend that. This is very much a lot of words in this masterclass, and we want to be working with the body. So that is quite an important piece to do alongside this video, and I really encourage you to do them together so that you have it all, the body, mind and spiritual aspects of this learning. So the integration and closing inquiry, what has softened, shifted or become clearer today? What do I want to take with me from this journey? What support do I need as I continue, and how can I honour my body's timing and wisdom? So supportive resources, books, Call of the Wild by Kimberly Ann Johnson. I've also done a couple of days, weekend one-to-one with the one-to-one group studies. She's from Australia. She is a sexologist and also works with menopause, but primarily a sexologist and doula, and I think she was a midwife as well. She really understands sexuality, and this book is particularly good when you are working on the sacral chakra, so I highly recommend. Remember, you can get these as physical books, or you can get these as downloads. Some of them may even be on Spotify, otherwise they'll be on Audible. You Are a Goddess, Sophie Bashford. That was my Bible. That was, or is, my Bible. Was for many years, and lots of bent pages where I've used this book as really was the starting point of this work for me. Awakening Shakti by Sally Kempton. This really hones in on sexuality. I highly recommend. And as I said, Shame. It's actually Shame, the Path to Hell by Carolyn Cowan. So the podcasts I recommend for this chakra, the Menstruality podcast, the Shiro's Journey, which is mine, which I'm kind of adding to all the time, and hopefully there will be more added this year, and the book hopefully will be coming out soon as well. The Red Tent podcast, and the Goddess, the Witch and the Womb. That's become one of my favourite recently, since it was highly recommended to me from someone. Really goes into particular goddesses and the moon cycles and so many other things. So yeah, I highly recommend that. And there's a link there to the workbook. If you don't have the workbook, I highly recommend that you download the workbook and do the exercises that are there to begin with, and then use the blank pages of each chakra to write notes on each of these masterclasses. So what can I say? Thank you so much for joining me. I just remember that take this slowly. There's always a lot to absorb. Listen to your body. Stop the video where you need to, shake out, do what you need to do, and do it piece by piece. So I hope that it's been useful. I'm really appreciative of you being here and taking the time for yourself to find your inner goddess. Sat now. Take care.